Los Angeles, love isn't found, it's sold. The city breeds it in through its screens, swipes, profiles, perfect smiles. Everyone's searching for something, connection, comfort, or just attention. But sometimes, behind that glow of romance, waits a predator who knows exactly what you're missing. Her story began like everyone else's, a match, a message, and a meeting. Only this time, love would lead to something far darker. This is blood and justice. But to the men who met her, she was something else. A second chance, that became their greatest mistake. This is blood and justice. Her name was Adva Levy, at least, that's what she called herself. On dating apps, her profile looked harmless, elegant smile, soft words, the kind of face that seemed trustworthy. Recently divorced, her bio read. Looking for someone kind. Her messages were perfectly crafted, never too forward, never too cold. She'd ask about their hobbies, their loneliness, their memories. She wanted to sound like hope, not temptation. Men said she made them feel seen, like she understood what they'd lost. But Adva wasn't looking for love. She was building a map of opportunity, one lonely man at a time. Each conversation gave her details, where he lived, what he owned, how often he went out, how vulnerable he felt. And when the connection felt real enough to meet, she'd smile through the phone and whisper the same line every time. I just want to see you in person. That sentence would be the start of a crime wave stretching across Los Angeles County. The first meeting always seemed innocent. A small restaurant on the west side, wine poured slow, laughter filling the silence. Adva knew how to look comfortable, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the way she leaned forward when he spoke, how she asked about his late wife without sounding rehearsed. She played empathy like a violin. One of her early victims, a retired contractor named Daniel, described her as warm, soft-spoken, someone who felt like a second chance. They met 3 times before she ever stepped into his house. The night she did, she brought a bottle of red wine and a story about how her purse had been stolen. I don't want to be a burden, she said. I just didn't know where else to go. He let her in, because that's what good men do. Hours later, she was gone. And so was his late wife's wedding ring, his watch, and half the cash he'd saved for retirement. He never saw her again. But that same week, another man across town reported the same thing. The same voice. The same woman. The same mistake. At first, the cases were treated like coincidences. A few missing valuables, a forgotten name, and a trail that ended with deleted profiles. But when the third report came in, another elderly man, another romantic evening, another vanished woman, detectives finally looked closer. Her victims were spread across Los Angeles County, Pasadena, Long Beach, Glendale, Encino. All wealthy neighborhoods. All men over 60. All connected through one thing, online dating apps. The LAPD's cybercrime division traced her messages through fake accounts, each linked to prepaid phones and temporary emails. The woman in every photo had the same eyes, kind, almost apologetic. She didn't look like a criminal, one detective said. She looked like someone you'd trust. But trust was her greatest disguise. Behind her gentle voice and polished manner, she carried precision. She never left fingerprints. Never stayed long enough to be remembered. And with each new case, her name became whispered in precinct halls. The dating app predator. What no one knew yet, was that her next target wasn't chosen by chance. He was a setup. And this time, someone would be waiting for her. Adva Levy wasn't improvising, she was studying. Every conversation, every emoji, every pause was rehearsed. She knew that loneliness had patterns, and she learned to read them like maps. Her victims weren't random, they were selected with precision. She searched dating apps for men who described themselves as old-fashioned, widowed, or retired. Her filters were empathy and loss. Once she found her next target, she built the perfect version of herself to fit his pain. If he liked music, she'd talk about jazz. If he loved cooking, she'd send photos of homemade dinners she never made. And when she sensed hesitation, she'd disappear, only to return days later with a message that felt personal. "I couldn't stop thinking about you." It wasn't romance. It was reconnaissance. She wasn't after affection. She was after access, the moment a man felt comfortable enough to let her inside. Police psychologists later called her manipulation weaponized empathy. To Adva Levy, love wasn't a feeling. It was a strategy. And she was a master at it. Once she earned their trust, the next move was simple: a visit. Adva never rushed the invitation. She waited until it came from them. She knew timing was everything. When they finally said, "Would you like to come by for dinner?" she'd reply with something soft, modest, to make them feel safe. "Only if you're sure," she'd write. The men described her as elegant, calm, polite. She'd arrive with a small gift, a bottle of wine, a candle, or pastries wrapped in ribbon. Nothing expensive, just personal enough to seem sincere. Her victims said the same thing afterward, that she made the house feel alive again. Then, after hours of laughter and stories, she'd slip away for a moment. "Restroom," she'd say. That's when the clock started ticking. Drawers opened quietly. Jewelry boxes unlatched. In less than 2 minutes, she'd memorized the layout, the valuables, the exits. Sometimes she took nothing that night. She just wanted to know where everything was. Because when she came back, she came to take it all. The first real theft happened in late spring, at a quiet house on the edge of Pasadena. The victim, a retired accountant, remembered every detail. He said she laughed softly when he told jokes, that she called him gentleman instead of his name. Around midnight, she offered to refill his glass, told him to stay seated, and walked toward the kitchen. But she didn't go to the kitchen. She went upstairs. In 3 minutes, she found a jewelry box, 2 gold watches, and a sealed envelope filled with savings bonds. When she returned, she was calm, even affectionate. They finished the wine. She kissed him goodnight at the door, saying she'd text him in the morning. By dawn, he realized she never would. The jewelry box was gone. The drawer was left open. He called her number, but the voicemail had already changed. Later, detectives found a faint fingerprint on the wine glass, smudged, partial, useless. The woman had vanished, leaving behind nothing but the faint scent of her perfume and the hollow silence of a home that once felt warm. For her, it was the beginning. For him, it was a lesson in how danger can look like love. The first detectives to catch her name were from the LAPD's Cybercrime Division. At first, all they had were fragments, a dozen elderly victims, all claiming they'd met a kind woman online. But when investigators traced their phones, one thing connected them: each had received messages from profiles created within days of each other. The usernames were similar: Dreaming Heart, Golden Muse, Adva_4U. Every account deleted itself within 48 hours of a burglary. Digital forensics found that her messages were sent through prepaid Wi-Fi devices, bought in cash. Even her photos weren't simple selfies, they'd been uploaded through image masking software that stripped location data. Whoever she wasn't just clever. She was methodical. She covered her tracks like someone who'd done this before, said one investigator. They placed decoy profiles on dating apps, hoping she'd reach out again. But she didn't. Instead, new victims began appearing in another city, this time in Santa Monica. The woman had moved. And with her, the illusion of love continued. By summer, the pattern was undeniable. Across Los Angeles County, police reports began stacking up: small thefts, missing heirlooms, drained savings accounts, all connected by the same woman with the same soft smile. Her approach never changed. A lonely man. A romantic dinner. A quiet disappearance. But what puzzled investigators most was how clean every crime scene was. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken locks, no fingerprints. She didn't steal with chaos, she stole with control. Detectives began calling her the ghost of Los Angeles. In every case, she knew exactly where valuables were hidden. Some victims said they'd shown her around the house just days earlier, without realizing she was memorizing every detail. It was like she'd rehearsed it. The police compiled her timeline, 15 thefts in under 4 months. But there was a problem. She was always 2 steps ahead. Every lead they found ended with another deleted account, another vanished address. And for all the men she'd met, not one had ever seen her ID, her car, or her real phone number. She was a woman who existed everywhere, and nowhere at all. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, a small cybersecurity unit that had been tracking data breaches across Southern California. One analyst noticed that several of ADVA's victims had used the same dating app, a lesser-known platform for older users called Heartline. What they found buried in the app's server logs stunned everyone. Each of those men had received messages from different accounts, but all originated from the same device ID. ADVA wasn't just creating new profiles, she was rotating them through one stolen phone. A phone that itself had been reported missing 6 months earlier. That device became her invisibility cloak, masking her identity behind someone else's. Every message she sent made another innocent person look guilty. Detectives traced the phone's IP location, but the signal bounced between cafes, parking lots, and free public Wi-Fi spots. One investigator later said, she used the city like her network. Every signal was a ghost. Still, one photo changed everything, a reflection caught in a mirror behind her shoulder. A window. A palm tree. And the faint glow of a neon motel sign. Finally, a lead, a location. It was time to move. The reflection in that photo led them to the Palms View Motel, a forgotten roadside stop just outside Glendale, a place where guests paid in cash and cameras never worked. Detectives arrived quietly, hoping the trail hadn't gone cold. The manager, an older man with weary eyes, recognized her instantly. She stayed here a few nights, he said. Always alone. Never gave a last name. Her room, number 6, was still vacant. The scent of perfume lingered faintly, floral, artificial. Inside, drawers were empty, sheets gone, mirror spotless. But under the bed, they found something small, a single gold earring, broken at the clasp. It matched a piece listed in one of the police reports, belonging to a victim in Pasadena. Forensics found no prints, no DNA. But tucked behind the nightstand was a hotel receipt, for a takeout order. The name written on it wasn't hers. It was the name of another man, one already listed as a victim. Somehow, even when she was gone, she still found ways to use them. The motel gave detectives their first real location. But it also proved one thing. Adva Levy didn't just steal possessions. She stole identities. The discovery at the motel changed everything. Until then, Adva Levy had been seen as a lone manipulator, intelligent, charming, and dangerously independent. But a review of financial records revealed something that didn't fit her profile. Several of her victims had experienced withdrawals at ATMs across the county within hours of their burglaries, cash taken by someone other than Adva. Security footage showed a man in a baseball cap, never looking at the camera, using cards belonging to those victims. Detectives froze the frame. His reflection appeared in the glass of a nearby storefront, a tall, lean figure with a tattoo on his wrist. When police enlarged the image, they recognized the logo, the same Palms View Motel emblem printed on the receipt found in Adva's room. Someone had been helping her, collecting what she stole, turning jewelry into cash, and erasing her tracks. She wasn't just luring victims, she was part of a network. One officer later said, she was the face. He was the ghost. Together, they turned affection into income, and love into a weapon. But what detectives didn't know was that Adva was already preparing her final move, a score so big it would end the illusion forever. By the time detectives realized Adva Levy wasn't working alone, she'd already gone quiet. No new victims. No new profiles. For nearly 2 months, Los Angeles fell silent. Some thought she'd fled the state. Others believed she was waiting for the next vulnerable soul. But one investigator, Detective Raymond Holt, didn't buy it. He believed she was watching, waiting for her story to fade before striking again. So, he built a trap. Using the same dating app, the LAPD created a fake profile, an elderly widower, recently retired, living alone in Pasadena. They filled his feed with realistic photos, details drawn from Adva's known preferences: travel, family, expensive furniture, a hint of melancholy. Within a week, she bit. The first message came late at night. "You seem kind. I don't usually do this, but I'd love to talk." Her grammar, tone, and emoji patterns matched perfectly. It was her. They had her. But what they didn't know, what no one could have expected, was that she had already chosen this profile. It wasn't their trap. It was hers. At first, it played out like every other conversation. She was gentle, patient, deliberate. "You remind me of someone I once loved," she wrote. The messages came slowly, always after midnight, always signed with a small red heart. Detective Holt knew she was testing him, watching for inconsistencies, timing his replies, even studying punctuation. To her, every word was a clue. So he stayed in character, widowed, lonely, still grieving. He told stories of a quiet house, of nights that felt too long. And she responded exactly as predicted. "I could never stand seeing someone sad," she wrote. "Maybe I can visit sometime." That was her tell. She was close to taking the bait. But when Holt checked the IP trace, something unexpected appeared. Her messages weren't coming from Los Angeles. They were being sent from San Diego, near the same motel chain she'd used months earlier. The investigators knew what that meant. She was on the move again. And this time, she wasn't just looking for victims. She was looking for whoever was pretending to be one. 2 days later, a silver sedan pulled into Pasadena. Traffic cameras caught a glimpse of her behind the wheel, sunglasses on, hair tied back, face calm, unbothered. She checked into a small short-term rental under a fake name. Paid cash. No luggage, just a black purse and a phone. For 3 nights, she played the part, messaging her new match, pretending to fall in love. Every word she sent was being monitored in real time from the LAPD cyber unit downtown. "She's cautious," one agent said. "But she's circling." On the 4th night, she sent the message they'd been waiting for. "I'll come by tomorrow. Just to say hello." A team was already in place, unmarked cars on every corner, microphones in the house, cameras hidden inside. The detective's fake profile texted back a simple reply. "I'll leave the porch light on." That night, Holt didn't sleep. Because everyone in that room knew, if Adva Levy sensed even a single detail out of place, she'd vanish again. And this time, for good. When the officers stormed the bathroom, the lights were still on. The water was running. But the room was empty. The window was still shut. The vent was too small for anyone to crawl through. And yet, Adva Levy was gone. The undercover officer swore he'd heard her heels only seconds before the breach. But when they replayed the footage, something strange appeared: static. A 2-second burst of interference scrambled the video feed from every camera in the house. Forensics later traced it to a signal jammer, a small black device found behind the toilet. The same kind used by professional thieves to block wireless networks. In those 2 seconds of static, she vanished. The front door was still locked. The back door, still bolted. She was simply gone. Holt stared at the footage in disbelief. "She's not just a con artist," he said quietly. "She's trained." They canvassed the area for hours, searching drains, alleys, rooftops. Nothing. All she left behind was that same half-empty wine bottle, her calling card. The next morning, another burglary was reported, 3 miles away. Within weeks of her escape, reports started flooding in from across the state. San Diego. San Jose. Phoenix. Same pattern. Same woman. Same line: "I just want to see you in person." What began as a local investigation had turned into a regional hunt. The FBI joined in, linking her crimes to a string of luxury burglaries across 3 states. Each location told the same story: elderly men, dating apps, and a charming woman who vanished before sunrise. Her methods were evolving. In Phoenix, she used a stolen identity to rent a car under a false name. In San Jose, she wore wigs and glasses. In every new city, she left fewer traces. "She learns fast," one federal agent said. "Every time we catch up, she's already rewritten her playbook." But one pattern remained the same: the wine bottle. Every crime scene had one, half empty, placed somewhere visible. It was her mark. Like a signature. To her, every burglary wasn't just a crime, it was a performance. In Los Angeles? That had only been her opening act. For months, she was a ghost without a past, until a fingerprint turned up in an old database overseas. The match came from Tel Aviv, Israel. Her real name, Advalavi Ben-Shahar, born in Haifa, 1983. A former hotel concierge, fluent in 4 languages, and once charged, but never convicted, for theft from international guests. She'd disappeared from the system years earlier, her trail going cold after she left the country using a falsified work visa. Investigators learned she had spent several years drifting between Europe and the United States, working under different aliases: Ava, Dalia, Dana. Each time, she blended in, learned new habits, and vanished again before anyone could connect the dots. Psychologists who studied her profile said she was driven by control, not greed. She didn't want money, she wanted power. The thrill wasn't in the theft. It was in the trust she could destroy. Every time a man opened his door, she relived the same moment, being underestimated, unseen, forgotten. That's what she hunted. Not wealth. Not revenge. Validation, and the illusion of being in control of the people who once looked down on her. But beneath that calm precision was a fracture, one that would eventually lead to her downfall. For months, she'd stayed one step ahead, moving with precision, changing names, changing faces. But even the best make mistakes. It happened with a message. A single text. She was using a new dating profile, this time under the name Rachel. The photo was different, the tone more casual. But her writing style was the same: poetic, deliberate, intimate. When she sent a message to a retired doctor in Santa Barbara, she didn't realize his nephew worked in law enforcement. The nephew recognized her phrasing from a public alert posted months earlier. "I couldn't stop thinking about you." It was her signature line. The message was forwarded to the task force. Within hours, agents traced the IP to a small beachfront cafe. Surveillance footage showed her sitting alone by the window, typing on her phone, sipping wine. She looked calm. Almost content. When she finished, she stood, paid in cash, and walked out into the sunlight. For a moment, she paused, looking straight at the cafe's security camera, and smiled. Then she was gone again. But this time, they knew where to start. Once the cafe footage went public, everything changed. For the first time, Advalavi wasn't just a name in reports, she was a face the public could see. The task force released a nationwide alert: be cautious of women using aliases Ava, Dalia, Rachel. May target elderly men through dating applications. Overnight, her photo flooded TV screens, online forums, and true crime communities. Tips poured in from everywhere: sightings in coffee shops, hotels, bus stations, but she seemed to vanish between every frame. Still, the digital net was tightening. Investigators mapped her last known credit card trails, fake accounts, and car rentals. All led to the same area, Palm Desert, 2 hours east of Los Angeles. The desert was perfect, quiet, full of retirees, and far from the eyes of city law enforcement. "If she's here," Holt said, "she's planning her exit." Teams were deployed at sunrise. And as the sun rose over the desert, the same woman they'd hunted for nearly a year stepped out of a small gas station, calm, collected, holding a cup of coffee. The cameras zoomed in. It was her. The chase had begun. The desert sun was blinding, a perfect place to disappear, and an even better place to be found. Unmarked SUVs followed her from a distance as she drove along the empty highway, the same silver sedan that had once slipped through Pasadena's rain now coated in desert dust. She stopped only once, at a roadside motel called the Mirage Inn. As she walked to her room, she didn't hurry. Didn't look back. She knew. When agents surrounded the motel, they expected panic. Instead, they found the door unlocked, her purse on the table, her phone still glowing with an open message. "It's over." She walked out the back door moments before the team entered. The last camera to see her caught only her shadow against the sand, fading as the wind picked up. Minutes later, they found her footprints leading toward the dunes, then nothing. No body. No car. No trace. Just the endless, empty desert. Some said she escaped. Others believed she never intended to. But in Holt's report, one line stood out. She wanted the story to end her way. Months passed. The case went cold. The stolen jewelry was never recovered. The accomplice was never found. But the legend of Adva Levy, the dating app predator, lived on. Her story became a warning for the modern age, not about money, but about trust. Detectives still replay her footage, studying every detail, the way she smiled, how she spoke, how she turned loneliness into leverage. For them, it's a reminder that evil doesn't always come with a threat. Sometimes, it comes with a promise. In the years since, similar cases have surfaced across the country, copycats, admirers, ghosts following her playbook. But the real Adva Levy? She was never found. Some say she started over, somewhere new, under another name. Others believe she walked into that desert to erase herself, the final act of control. Either way, her story asks one question every viewer will remember. When love turns into a weapon, how do you know you're not next? This is Blood and Justice.